Welcome to your Essential Business Briefing. I'm Stephen Carroll. Coming up, we meet one of France's newest unicorns. The robotics startup Exotec tells us about joining the elite club of firms valued over $1 billion. European cheesemakers create a stink after losing a court battle in the US over what you can call Gruyere. We'll have reaction from both sides of the Atlantic. And the factories with an off switch, how major French industrial plants can be cut off from the power grid to avoid blackouts. We start with a milestone here in France as a robotics company has become the country's 25th unicorn. Exotec raised $335 million in its latest funding round, valuing it at over $2 billion. A unicorn is a company that hasn't gone public and is valued at over $1 billion. Exotec specialises in developing robots for e-commerce depots. Its success is also a win for France's startup scene, which has now met a target set by President Emmanuel Macron of producing 25 unicorns by 2025.
We were told that it was impossible and that basically the startup nation was a lot of hot air. But collectively, we got there, and 3 years ahead of schedule. French tech is not just unicorns. I see them as examples, models for the entire ecosystem. Behind them, there are nearly 20,000 startups, which, by their impact, are essential to our economy.
Let's speak now to Romain Moulin, who's the CEO of Exotec. Romain, thanks very much for being with us. Congratulations on this milestone. Tell us then about your robots. What do they do and who do you sell them to?
Thank you. So our robots are used in a fulfillment center. The job of a fulfillment center will happen each time you order online a book and a pen, for instance. People will have to find this book and this pen and put them together to send it to you. This is where our robots will be used. They move in 3 dimensions in the warehouse, and they can get articles up to the height of the warehouse and bring them back to the operator. So the operator are working much more faster, and they don't do kilometers and kilometers like they could do in a day when you do manual operations. So bringing the performance to the fulfillment center, that's really what we do, and all our robotics systems are used in the fulfillment centers.
So what sort of clients do you have? Who's using your robots at the moment?
For instance, I could quote Gap. So for in retail, we use also for Uniqlo, for Carrefour, which is a famous grocery, sports good for Decathlon, for instance. So all big retail brand or e-commerce brand can use our systems.
And are you selling internationally as well? Do you have are you sending your robots out around the world?
Yeah, we have robots. I taught for Uniqlo in Japan, for instance. We have them all over Europe, and we have them in North America, in Canada, for Decathlon, for Gap in North America, Ariat, which is an e-commerce vendor, so anywhere in the world.
What was it that led you to focus on developing robots for this particular part of the industry? I mean, you struck lucky with the pandemic and the general trend of people online shopping, but what inspired you to move in that direction?
The inspiration of the creation of Exotec, I would say, it comes from Amazon. Amazon built their technology of robot that was called the Kiva robots at that time, and in 2014 announced that they would keep the technology completely internally and stop to sell it outside. And that was really the starting point of the co-founder Renaud and myself thinking about what could we do for the warehouse. It's the future. The fulfillment center needs to be more performant. We need to put robotics in there. And yeah, I would say the Amazon move was really the starting point to make us think about it.
Will you be sending Jeff Bezos a thank you letter?
I could, yes.
We're talking to you as you've reached this milestone of a unicorn company, a value of $1 billion. Is that, you're actually valued at $2 billion, I should say. Is there any significance to you of reaching this moment?
For us, there's of course a lot of pride behind that, and being able to build an industrial unicorn, for us it's an extreme pride. But most of all for us, it's also visibility internationally. Goldman Sachs is the investor in Exotec, so I would say it takes us to the world of the startup, to the world of the international group, industrial group, and we can compete with the big leader of our field, which are huge company, 1 billion, 3 billion revenue company. So being able to have the financial stability and the partner to compete against the big ones was very important for us.
Have you had much luck raising investment in Europe?
It was really a target for us to raise money. So Goldman Sachs is from the US, and for us it was important to raise money also outside of Europe to have an international view and international partners for that company.
Now, your company, your factories, I should say, are based in a part of France that have seen many factory closures in recent years. Was it important to you to be bringing industry back to an area that's lost so much of it?
Yes, it was important for us. I think it's possible to put industry back in France. The key to that is to build a value-add machine and to put a lot of software and intelligence in the machines so that you are not just competing about the hardware and the labor price. So we are super proud of having proven that we could put back industry in France.
You have plans to hire a lot more staff in the coming years as well. What sort of people are you looking for?
All kinds of people. I think that is a nice point of Exotec. So a lot of R&D people, of course, because we are building the next generation of robots. But from sales to deployment to maintenance, we need all skills, engineers, technicians, and all over the world. So we hire really everybody.
And do you think you'll have any problems attracting talent?
I think that will be a challenge. We will manage to do it, but we know that we have to put a lot of energy into it because right now the economy is going quite well, so it's a fight for talents. That's why also being a unicorn and having this visibility will help us. But yes, we will have to switch from 350 people to 700 people at the end of this year. So we know that we will have to work hard to get there.
Okay, and we wish you the best of luck with it. Romain Moulin from Exotec, thank you very much for speaking to us. Next, a court decision in the United States has angered makers of Gruyere cheese in France and Switzerland. A judge ruled that they couldn't claim exclusive use of the name in the US as the term had become too generic. It's left cheesemakers on this side of the Atlantic with a bitter taste, and they're appealing the decision. Olivia Salazar-Winspear reports.
It's a proud product of the mountainous Savoie region. Gruyere is a French staple, enjoyed at the end of meals or used in fondue, onion soup or the famous croque-monsieur. This dairy produces more than 250 tonnes of the cheese every year, and these wheels have a GI quality mark to prove their provenance. Made from the milk of grass-fed cows, aged for a minimum of 4 months, it's a painstaking process that would be impossible to recreate elsewhere, according to those who put their heart and soul into making it.
It's an outrage. We can't let people claim that our Gruyere is generic. It's anything but generic. It has its roots in its land, the ancestral methods of production, from the milk to the aging process.
On the other side of the Atlantic, in Wisconsin, they've been making what they call alpine cheese since the 80s. It's manufactured in the same way, but it's a bit more expensive than its French cousin. They might appear to be identical, but this cheesemaker says there are a few key differences.
The European ones will go up higher in the Alps, and you'll get different microbials as you'll go up, where the US ones do more rotational crops or farming, pasturing.
Nevertheless, he thinks those variations don't have to be a hurdle.
We want to have products in different parts of the world that are accessible to everybody, and I think that's an important element of US cheese production.
And when it comes to the blind taste test, opinions are mixed.
Yeah, the French one, yeah. Less pungent, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
A little more mellow, yeah.
Probably because I'm Americanized. My taste buds are Americanized.
The French Union for Gruyere Producers has expressed their opposition to plans to extend the labelling of the cheese and says they'll contest this latest ruling.
As France tries to switch to more renewable sources of power, the country's electricity grid is coming under pressure. Several of its nuclear power stations have been shut down temporarily in recent weeks, putting further strain on the power supply. Some of the biggest factories in France are also on notice. Their electricity could be cut to avoid blackouts elsewhere. Catherine Viette has more.
With France's power grid under strain, some companies are helping to ease the pressure. At this aluminum factory in the southeast, Its employees know their power could be disconnected at any time to help ease demands on the country's electrical grid. They've been making high-tension cables and other products at this factory for over 100 years, and it takes a lot of energy.
We consume roughly the equivalent of the city of Lyon, more than 2 terawatt-hours. These are indeed very impressive amounts of energy.
The plant gorges on energy, but in the event the network gets overloaded, it can be shut down to avoid blackouts. Cuts are rare. There were none in 2020, just one in 2021. But when they happen, everybody remembers.
It's brutal. We can be in the middle of work. In less than 5 seconds after the shutdown order, all the switches seen here trigger instantly.
France's electric network, RTE, can order power cuts immediately with the press of a button. In return for these shutdowns, the manufacturer is paid several million euros a year. However, in the event of a malfunction, or if the cut does not take place, the factory is held responsible and risks major penalties.
A missed shutdown costs half a year's revenue.
Across the country, 14 big factories have agreed to power cuts ranging from 1 to 5 hours, saving 1,130 megawatts, or the equivalent output of one large nuclear reactor. An attempt to ease pressure on the grid as France transitions to producing 40% of its electricity from renewable sources over the next decade.
That's it from us for now, but you'll find this and all of our previous programmes available to watch on our website and as a podcast wherever you usually listen. And you'll find us on social media for your comments and questions. Until next time, thanks for watching.
France 24, your economy explained. Liberté, égalité, actualité.